The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
The growth.
Hello. Welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable. This is the 160th episode, and our hosts for today are Aaron Day. Let's see here. Daylight Freedom, Stop CBDCs, and author of The Final Countdown. Litecoin Lisa Miney Davis, Satoshi Sean, all of our best friend. And I'm Joe, founder, architect, Dragon Chain, blah, blah, blah. First, quick update on the World Blockchain Roundtable layer ownership tokens distribution from last week's episode. Every host from last week will receive 222 lot. Every topic contributor, 55 lot. Last week's themes were nominated by IM4IM, who is apparently on his way in. He's rebooting, I think, who will receive 55 lot. Ownership tokens come with free edits, perpetual passive income, and most importantly, governance votes. Theme of the week this week is ETHgate, real or fiction, nominated by IM4IM also. So anything to cover before we go to questions by anyone? What do you guys want to talk about?
I actually just realized that I died on the same day Kennedy did. It's kind of cool.
You died on the same day Kennedy did?
Yeah. Well, not the same year, but the same day.
Same day. What do you mean?
When I died.
You died? When did you die? I don't understand.
November 22nd, like 10 years ago. And I died, and I was in a coma for a while. And
I didn't know that.
yeah,
How did I not know that?
Everybody
didn't know that.
Lisa, doesn't everyone know that?
I think everybody knows that, but
It's the same
not.
day? Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. I just yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was weird when I saw the date. I was like, why is that? Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'd say it's 11/22. I was like, why do they always have repeating numeral things when they do shit like that?
Anyway, you know, we're
whatever.
real weird. I got married on 11/16, and we went to San Antonio for our. This is really getting off subject, but we went to San Antonio for our honeymoon.
Who you?
In the honeymoon suite, right? And then, like, the first girlfriend I had after I broke up with after I got divorced. She lived far away. She lived in Abilene. When she got married, she went to the same place and stayed at the same room and all. I was like, that's weird.
Huh.
Yeah.
Sean, yeah, I don't know. Something's up. Okay, so we'll go straight to questions then. All right. Let me see here. I will throw this up here. So, okay, this is it. ETHgate, real or fiction? Oh, I need to refresh, right? Need to refresh. Make sure we get latest ordering of the questions. And do we want? I mean, if anybody wants to cover anything on this first, I think IM4IM has some stuff in here to kind of give a background on it. So I'll read through it. If anybody wants to add any color to this or anything they know that isn't covered, throw it in. Many people in the audience may not be familiar with the ETHgate story, so below is a very brief history that helps the audience understand the context of this discussion. Ethereum is the second largest blockchain in the world by various measure. Only Bitcoin is bigger. Rather than be like Bitcoin and function like digital gold, Ethereum is a protocol that uses blockchain tech and provides a platform for smart contracts. This makes its utility very different than Bitcoin's. Between these two blockchains, they represent 70% of the market share. Is that still true? I thought it was, maybe it's Bitcoin. It was quite lower than it used to be. Anyway, in 2018, William Hinman, the former SEC director, declared ETH. Well, at the time, he was
I gotta say this now. This is the most simple yet complicated thing I've ever seen. You know what I mean? You're already doing it when you what was it? Yeah, it's like a basic dirty backroom crap, but it's so confusing.
Yeah, well, and that's the way they do stuff like that. If they do it, and what's true, what isn't, I don't know. Some of it's true, I'm sure. Some of it isn't, I'm sure. But he got up on stage, and he was at the time, and maybe he'll get into this. He was being paid by is it Simpson Thatcher? Is that correct, guys? Anybody? Anyway, he was a partner at a law firm that was partnered with and a member of the Ethereum Foundation consensus, whatever that whole thing was, and essentially went up on stage and said it wasn't a security because it was decentralized enough, and it was an odd thing to make happen, but crony capitalism stuff, I guess, is the way probably the most memeified way to categorize it, but thus allowed it to bypass regulatory challenges faced by other cryptocurrencies like XRP, Dragon Chain, Library, and others. And the interesting thing there too is to note from my context, what I know, a lot of people got letters, and a lot of people, nothing really happened. They just kind of like, no, whatever. But they chose a few to go after, and it's funny that the few that they went after tended to be people that were really building stuff. They didn't go after Luna, right? They didn't go out. There's so many. They didn't go after. There's so many they didn't go after. They should have. Anyway, and frankly, I wouldn't think they need to go after any of them. That people should be able to look at a project, do their own due diligence, know whether to buy into it, know whether to use it, know whether to interact with it, and on their own, right? I don't think the SEC's ever been a good hand at really telling you what you should invest in, or what products you should use, or what software they might approve. Anyway, so some call ETHgate a conspiracy, and others state that there is hard evidence that the SEC gave preferential treatment to ETH, to Ethereum, consensus, which, by the way, sorry, I keep adding more color. A lot of that, I've heard a lot of rumors, and I do believe some of this is true from what I've behind the scenes heard, that Lubin was pointing to, he was acting as a trusted informer inside the crypto world to tell the SEC who to go look at. And I can only imagine who he might have pointed to, who might have been in competition with his money, right? Anyway, XRP been fighting a court case with the SEC at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars, alleging that the SEC did give ETH a pass while not doing the same for XRP and others. From this case, and whistleblowers from within ETH's creation have provided strong evidence that ETH paid for play. I think that's a pretty certain thing. It's been admitted by a few. The paid for play allegations include potential conflicts of interest due to Hinman's ties to Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. Sorry, that was correct. And direct interactions between Ethereum's founders and SEC officials. A key example was before joining the SEC, William Hinman worked with the law firm Simpson Thatcher and Bartlett LLP, where he was a partner. After leaving the SEC, Hinman returned to the private sector and joined the law firm Simpson Thatcher Bartlett again, and which had direct ties to the alliance. Stephen Nayeroff, an early advisor to Ethereum, plays a significant role in the ETHgate controversy. He's questioned the SEC's approach to Ethereum, particularly regarding the agency's decision to classify it as sufficiently decentralized, which allowed it to avoid being labeled as a security. Nayeroff's involvement gained further attention when he had extortion charges against him dismissed, leading to speculation that he might have insider information relevant to ETHgate. Crypto lawyer John Deaton, the Great, has hinted that Nayeroff could provide crucial insights into the SEC's decision-making process and its interactions with Ethereum founders. John Deaton will win, by the way. Okay. So that's the first topic or question. Anything you guys want to cover on that? What do you guys think?
Well, I interviewed Nuryov. We did a couple of hour interview, and I actually thought it was fascinating because it intersects a couple of things. His case involves essentially him potentially having the ability to be a whistleblower on not only ETHgate, but also on what happened to T0, which these are related concepts. And so the background for Nuryov is he's a lawyer and also in tech, and he kind of, created the legal framework for ICOs and actually for security tokens. He did the first security token at T0 and also utility tokens. And basically his story is that he was early involved with Ethereum and also early involved with Consensus, and that he was offered a significant stake, something like 40% of Consensus with Joe Lubin. And he decided that based on some of the practices and so forth going on within Ethereum and Consensus, that he didn't want to be a part of it. And because he was a potential whistleblower that could have exposed what was going on with the investors in Ethereum and Consensus and everything else, they manufactured this extortion case against him, basically to buy his silence. And what he claims is that 12 FBI agents came to his house, raided his home, basically threw him in a van and said, unless you give us information that leads to indictments and convictions against, and they gave him a couple of pages of people in the crypto space, they said he'd never see his children again. And so he's kind of discussed who's on that list. And to your point, Joe, it does seem like, and this is in 2019, that the Department of Justice has been proactively going after specifically leaders in the Liberty crypto space without evidence. So they've been going on a witch hunt and actually using manufactured evidence to try to threaten and extort people into providing information on people that are presumed guilty as a default. And I found his thing to be interesting, and I've been following up on it and actually talking to some of the other people that are on that list. And what I've been saying to people is, guys, if you're in the Liberty crypto space, we joke about being on a list, right? That's something in the Liberty community we do all the time. Ha ha, we're on a list. But in actuality, since 2019, there has been a proactive intent on the Department of Justice to get information and shut down projects that promote free speech and promote decentralization. And I think that's probably the biggest reveal for me. I mean, in addition to ETHgate itself, is the actual concentrated effort by the DOJ to go after freedom. So I'd say that as an intro.
Yep. That's all the truth. That's all the truth. And it's weird too, because I think it spans it's not just crypto. There's political things. It's all mixed in together. It's really getting crazy to try to pay attention to what's going on in the world these days. So anyway, anybody else? I Am for Am is finally here.
Finally here. I had my Ethernet card, I think, has been kind of spotty or messing up, and what a coincidence. ETHgate and my Ethernet cards going.
The wires got crossed. They thought we were doing something on Nix.
Well, I'm telling you, somebody's watching, somebody's listening.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to type up that scenario of what ETHgate was, simply because. And good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
So just to figure out, to kind of give people up to speed as we go through the questions and talk about, ETHgate, fact or fiction. There's certainly a lot of facts out there, and I had to go back to Aaron's interview of Steven Neroff and listen to that again yesterday. 2 hours of really, really good information. So if you get a chance, go to his channel and listen to that interview. But there is a ton of evidence to show that this was ETH was given a free pass, and we're going to go through that in the questions, I'm sure. It's funny how they've tried to whitewash, clear Steve Neroff of even being affiliated or part of Ethereum's creation.
That's strange. And I can't understand all of the, because there's a lot of history and a lot of details there, right? I can't understand all of it, but it's frustrating because even now they're trying to make it into a binary political thing. It's like, oh, we have to go Trump now, and I'm like, here I was a Trump supporter mostly for the same reason that I was a McAfee supporter back in the day. That disruption is what's needed. And yet, it's really funny to me now that people don't even think about it. I mean, Clayton started this whole mess. When Clayton and Hinman were both Trump people, and they were both connected to China and connected to the Alibaba IPO and all the rest of this stuff. I would consider them traitors myself. That they did that. They attacked American industry. They basically screwed crypto in the U.S. for years, and it's now we have meme coins. Praise to the USA. We have meme coins now. Thank you very much. It's the stupidest goddamn thing in the world.
Maybe meme coins are going to rule the world. Maybe that's how they're going to slide in under the radar.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no. We have meme coins, but in the meantime, the Federal Reserve has been working with MIT and developing CBDCs and all kinds of dystopian tokenization platforms that will be completely censorable and managed and controlled and monitored by multiple third parties. And so what's been going on in the quote free market are meme coins, and what's been going on behind the scenes is the absolute acceleration of Big Brother.
Yep,
agreed.
I know you guys say we have meme coins, but I don't think you realize how many we have. I didn't.
Thousands and thousands.
Yeah, there's a new coin about every 10 or 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I did a review on this platform that made a trading bot for trading meme coins just on Solana. And in 7 minutes of talking, like 11 were issued while I was talking. And they're like 250% up, 300% up.
That's the thing I'm talking about. Is this what we're here for? Is that why? I mean, it's the craziest thing in the world. There's some financial aspects to it, but most of it was liberty. Because if it was just a financial thing, it'd be like, oh, I'm going to buy this stock because I really believe in it, right? A GameStop type thing, right? But I got into Bitcoin because it was a different way of doing things that could be stretched into things that went well beyond, I can actually retire. It wasn't just that. It was that we could actually speak freely to each other, and we could actually not worry about the banks shutting down my account because they don't like something I say on social media, right? But no, instead they kill anything that might be of particular use or might be a threat to their and the craziest goddamn thing is we can't even say who they are, right? Might not know who they are. If we do know who they are, it's too much of a threat to say anything. So, that's the worst part of it.
You guys are programmers. You know that about cryptocurrency. Like that's the big, like if Facebook was the DARPA thing, there are rumors that Bitcoin was as well. And if it's like, well, okay, we're going to trick these people. We're going to do Operation Choke Point 2.0. We're going to freeze their accounts. These we're going to do it to the Tea Party people. We're going to do it to these other people wanting freedom. Then you know what? They're going to think, well, they're going to be in crypto and they're going to be able to hide their money. Well, actually, it's the most trackable. Like when they do these announcements and they say, oh, these hackers hijacked and they want to be paid and ransomed in Bitcoin. That's a moron. You guys know this stuff. We know that's not a pathway to anonymity. So why are we?
Well,
it's so much bigger than this.
We also all know that fluoride isn't just good for your teeth.
Well,
let's not go there.
Well, so I want to say, when my conversation with Neroff was interesting because I got involved really early with Ravencoin and T0 and that whole thing because I looked at ICOs and I talked to some lawyers and everything, and I knew ICOs were going to face legal challenges. Although, to be very clear, I don't think that the SEC should exist. I think to Joe's comments, they've been picking winners, and it's been a revolving door of cronyism from day
Forever.
one when Joseph Kennedy was the first. And so it's a
Yep.
no investors are ever protected by the SEC. The incumbents are protected by the SEC.
Yep.
But nevertheless, I started looking at security tokens, which I didn't even realize until recently that Neroff was the one who actually created the first construct of that for T0. And I was really excited about Ravencoin because Ravencoin, it's basically a fork of Bitcoin, but for tokens. You can tokenize any asset, and the big aspect of this was security tokens. That was what the big application was. And the problem with this has been, and the idea was, oh yeah, well, we're going to fix Wall Street because we're going to add this transparency and everything's going to be on the blockchain. Well, it turns out Wall Street has no interest in this because they're not interested in transparency. So the solutions that they're building are nothing like this. And so, I mean, to your point, Lisa, so what I'm interested in now is this new category of privacy tokens. I've been experimenting. This is early, so I'm not recommending this. I'm recommending that explore this and research this, but a thing called Zano, which basically it's like Monero for tokens. So now you can tokenize anything, but actually obscure the identity and add privacy. I think that's the next iteration of this, because I think you're right. I think we've all realized now, wait a minute, we've been using these public blockchains, and now the government is using chain analysis with AI. Everybody's getting doxxed. And now we've kind of owned ourselves on this. And so we need to get back to privacy.
Agreed. And I'll put on my woo-woo hat, and I think Lisa will can attest to this. I think there's a high probability that they're allowing these meme coins to just flourish and go crazy and not go after them, because what does that do? It kind of detracts from the serious utility that blockchain and peer-to-peer electronic cash can do to the system. And if it's sucking in all of these people into this meme coin and all these rug pools and honeypots and everything else, what's it doing? It's giving the crypto world a bad name. While there are some that can certainly make money off of meme coins, and maybe something.
I almost guarantee that's what Zuckerberg's that's what the whole Facebook crypto was going to be. It was going to be designed to get as much of people's retirement savings into it before it was rugged, and then to end all crypto, because all of the boomers, anybody over 60 something, is going to say, no, it should all be illegal because everybody lost everything, right?
Great point.
Anyway, wow.
I also remember when ETHgate happened, everybody was happy. Because there was like, oh, so, Ethereum's cool. Because everyone's waiting for something, some kind of basic framework. Because it's a whole brand new asset, and we need a basic framework so we can get started. And so we can get in the, institutional investors and get crypto off the ground.
Yep. Number go up.
That was like the biggest thing. Oh, so we just have to have projects that are decentralized. And all projects that were like, well, we're not really decentralized yet. Our goal is to be decentralized by, fourth quarter of 2 years from now. And so it basically was like, we're set, crypto's good to go. And then everybody realized, no, that's not exactly what we mean. We don't mean every project can just be decentralized.
All it meant is this guy that handed us that check, that guy's stuff is decentralized enough. I talked to, you had the freaking SEC calling out and talking to Vitalik. He's like, they never called me, I've had to fight and spend millions just to try to get them to listen. And then what is it? 7 years later now, our lawyer gives them info, and it's hilarious. I went in Chicago and I sat down under oath and gave them all of this info. It's like, here's how it works. Here's how it's decentralized. Here's how that works. Here's why we did this. And they don't understand it. 7 years later, they still don't understand the basic fundamentals of what we've built, and that it's software. It's like, I'm not a banker. I'm not a dude coming out of Goldman Sachs that starts a project just because it's hot and I can take a bunch of money from people. I'm not in the club. I'm an engineer who built something, who knows how it works, and the intent isn't even financial, right? You could use it for financial stuff, but the intent of what I built is to do things in the world with software, and happen to use blockchain, and they've come after me. So
like Den.Social.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that ends up ending up going into even stuff that is probably not comfortable to talk about. So anyway, next. Is that good?
Sure.
My question: did Ethereum get special treatment or a free pass from the SEC? And if so, what does this mean for other blockchains? And if so, what should be done? And if so, I'm sorry, should the SEC overturn its ruling and ETH be fined?
No.
Bunch of great questions.
I
Okay,
think-
so Sean's going to start.
What should ETH be fined? Should the SEC be maybe disbanded? Before, and that's one of the biggest things about crypto. Crypto brought the shoe shine boys and the cab drivers. They were able to invest with the big guys and make those great gains that were only
That's what
for
they
the.
don't like.
They hated that,
Yes.
and they most people don't even really know what the SEC knew. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they thought it was maybe a part of the FBI or they were not.
Yeah.
When they invested, they gave it to someone. I was a financial advisor. They gave it to me. They would make like they barely understood mutual funds or how many kinds of insurance are there? I mean, it was not something that people never directed or invested directly. You know what I mean? Unless it was like in a business.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things is that people. It's part of the rabbit hole when you go into crypto. You know how money works and all that, but you also know how the other part of the shitty government works. And then and with this, you see preferential treatment. It's so rampant now. 10, 20 years ago, stuff was hidden. Now it's not hidden. It's Pelosi's like people are like, you did the same thing Martha Stewart did. And she's like, yeah, whatever, man.
Well, it's legal for Congress.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's I think that's a big thing. But like Aaron was saying, I don't think it should even exist anymore.
Well, and I've noticed that there's this trend that it's an alarming trend. So we just had whatever yesterday or the day before this thing with Hunter Biden, and people are out there cheering, oh yeah, he might get 25 years for for not filling out paperwork related to guns. And so, okay, let me get this straight. You're a Republican and you're for the Second Amendment, but you're cheering because the guy's going to go to jail for something related to the Second Amendment. And this is going on in crypto now too, where it's like, so the whole point of this is to weaponize the law. You don't care what the principle is. It's just, we're going to punish our enemies. And that's bad, because what that means is that the only thing that's actually winning is the apparatus of lawfare and authoritarianism. And so I think this applies equally to crypto. So yeah, I don't think that. Do I think that there was cronyism involved with ETH? Of course, there was. It seems like there was cronyism involved. Look at where Hinman ended up working, making money doing ICOs and everything else. That's the normal process. But the right solution is to unwind it for everyone, not to just, well, now it's a new administration, so we're going to weaponize the SEC against the people we don't like, and then do that back and forth each time. That's the worst outcome. And unfortunately, that seems to be the direction everything is heading in.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Agreed.
I'll tell you, did they get us a free pass? Yes. What does it mean for other blockchains? Other blockchains should be free to do what they should be doing, right? And people using them if they want to. And if so, what should be done? Should it overturn its ruling and ETH be fined? It's like, no. The real truth, I mean, the choice should be between disband the SEC, stop all this BS. Because, by the way, we could take a little sidebar into GameStop, and you can see how corrupt that system is. And here are these crypto people, oh, we want institutional. We want that? No, we don't want that. And guess what should happen? The alternative should be ropes and lampposts. And that's what I'm telling you is coming if they don't clean this shit up. And it's not going to be me. I'm not making a threat. But I've looked at history. That is what happens in history when similar things happen. And the only thing saving them so far is this is a very big country. And it's a long fucking walk from my house to DC, right? So that's what's coming. They better start to fix shit, because it's so rotten right now and everybody sees it. And GameStop, so even the people in the normal markets outside of crypto are now seeing, was like, wait a minute, how is it possible they bought shorts on shares that don't exist? They didn't actually borrow it. How's that possible? It's like, oh, well.
And then when everybody stopped buys and only allowed this, and that was also a really good lesson for Robinhood. You know, they were hey, we're bringing investing to the common man. You could buy stocks, adding crypto to it. You know, screw those cronies, screw those big boys. We're for the people. And then they did it. They tried to play nice, and now, what is few years later, the SEC is going to shut them down. You can't play with the Viper. You're going to get bit. You know,
But Robinhood was never doing that for the people. They were then using that as the best. They were giving them their best price, and then they were using that to let the big boys play off of the little boys' bets and prices. That wasn't even a fair playing field.
And something else we do need to go, because what Aaron mentioned specifically about the Biden trial, they select. It's so funny. It's so manipulative, and it's so binary, because they basically take the two sides and say, okay, he has all these crimes. It's like, if you look at that book that they put together with from the laptop, and there are hundreds at least, if not thousands, of crimes, drug, and me myself, I care little about the drug and gun paperwork crimes. What I care about is seeing the bribery and the obvious influence stuff and all of that, and none of that's touched. So they don't go after any of that. They go after the gun crime in order to pit. It's like, yeah, we'll get him for a gun crime, but yeah.
Also, I knew he was going to be a sacrificial lamb for Trump, because what they did to Trump is just insane. And I heard AOC say it the other day. Isn't it obvious that it's completely different for Democrats? This is the president's son, and we're happy to send him to jail. Like, no, you're not. You know,
it was done for that soundbite.
No one's above the law, you guys.
Yeah, she said that. No one is above the law. You're the president's son.
On this question, my 2 cents is yes, ETH got preferential treatment. I wish that we would, first of all, I wish Congress would have done their job and enacted, specific laws, rules of the game. Let us know what the playing field was, and that justice was blind, and the SEC, carried out per Congress's rule, laws. Having said that, I still wouldn't want to give any of them that kind of power, but that is kind of the hope and dream and hopium and illusion that we live in. So should SEC turn around and undo their ruling and find, Ethereum? No, I would disagree with that as well. I would just say, let all the cryptos flow and do what your mandate is. Your mandate, SEC, is to protect the retail investor. You're not doing your job. You're picking winners and losers. And I guess that's my point. Now, in a perfect world, yes, the SEC wouldn't exist. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
So from my perspective, I like, for instance, to touch on one other point, the Wall Street bets movement and the whole thing around GameStop. It's a great concept, but you're never going to win a rigged game. But what I've been saying is, if you took that energy and instead got people to exit the banks and exit the dollar and move into self-custody alternative currencies, that would actually be a wake-up call. That's how you actually end the Fed. That's actually how you accomplish all of these things. And I've been digging separately, and I won't go into it, but 401ks, this entire structure that we have, 401ks are an absolute scam. 401ks it's basically using tax policy, incentives, and penalties to push people to hodl stocks until they're 59 and a half years old. I mean, like literally, in this thing was developed in 1978 under Carter with Democrat majorities. That's a weird story because I've been looking into the history of this, but that's what it is. It's hodl for stocks to keep that Ponzi going. So people are like, oh, the stock market's doing great. Of course the stock market's doing great, because everybody that works for a large company, 10% of their income is going into these stock funds, you don't know what you're even investing in. You invest in this fund. You don't get to vote the shares. You don't actually own the shares. If the custodian of your 401k goes broke, then all of your assets are going to go to a secured creditor. Like it's the biggest scam of all time, and nobody's even talking about it. So whether that's a diversion, but it is something that I think it is related to all of this with the SEC and self custody and everything else.
That's the fundamental undercurrent. Everything that we know of is false. And so it's like everything is like that. And you can look at any segment of society and it's in some way like that. And someone has set it up for that reason. I've always been blown away that nobody really thinks about that. Yeah, of course, people are putting money into 401k. It's the only way they can avoid a 40% tax, right? So
Yep.
It's nuts. And it's not going to last forever. And that's why when you say it's not going to happen, I think something is coming. It's like we're going to have World War III before the next election. We're going to have, who knows what all that's going to pan out. And what we really need to do is think, okay, we have tools. We don't have as many tools as I would like right now, but we have tools. And when these things are happening, we need to be cognizant that when these things get, shaken up a little bit, that's when we need to come in and say, okay, from now on, this is how we're going to do this, right?
Right.
And not just bow to the
national police with the FBI. People are like, oh no, we're not. The founding fathers said no national police. We're 50 different, we're different countries, different states, all to get to union. And we went from starting the FBI to like 53 letter agencies now. In my grandfather's time to mine, that is so short. And for people but the weird thing is that people honestly don't know. It's not weird because the government schools don't teach you, but I mean, the whole country, who's going to build the roads? We had roads. We had all that before we had,
I'll tell you, how
massive
it's changed in that amount of time, just in like 2 generations. I mean, I as a kid, I was told by my grandma she snuck out the back door to watch them hang a horse thief.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Somebody had come through town and stolen a horse, and they caught him, and she was like, "What's going on?" And they sent her inside, and she snuck around back and watched this, and she, it's like, this is my grandma, so it wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about it, that's not as far away even as the beginning of the Fed and the IRS. So it's like, okay. Anyway, okay. Next question, maybe. Let's see here. Many in the Ethereum community don't believe Stephen Nayaroff's claims, and certainly don't believe he is part of the creation of ETH. In fact, his name has been scrubbed from Ethereum. That's super interesting. Some say that he was even jailed and therefore has lost credibility. I personally believe him. Question: is his claim to have been a part of the Ethereum creation fact or fiction? See the image. CNBC vetted him. I don't know how much do you put into CNBC's vetting? I don't know. He is mentioned in an email from Joseph Lubin on August 10, 2014 regarding the setup of a business plan for Ethereum's inception. He also had that tape where in one of the early meetings he did release. But I don't know, if Kramer said, I'm just joking anyway.
Of him and Vitalik speaking. Is that the one you're talking about, Joe?
Yeah. So something there, but yeah. What do you guys think? Was he actually part of the Ethereum creation? So, and Aaron has already mentioned. So I think it's pretty well established, right?
I think he was involved. I don't know. Just remembering when Vitalik went to Russia, because he's part Russian, and he was talking about kill those dirty capitalists. He was.
Who said that?
Like, yeah, he was in an elevator, but he'd being filmed, and he was like, he met with like Putin, I think.
Just in the hallway, he met with Putin in the hallway. It was a very brief
conversation. Did he? Wow.
Yeah, because he was like, he said it like jokingly, because
that's
he's
funny.
Ultra awkward. He was like, kill those dirty capitalists. That's what
Vitalik awkward.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's all right.
I was going to say, I believe his story. I think it's kind of like one of those. if they're censoring something, then there's something there, or it must be true, right? I think you've said that a lot before.
That's a litmus test that Joe has invented, and one of the most brilliant things. Any time in history that anyone has tried to keep information quiet, have they ever been right?
That's right.
It's always been true info.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to,
I think that one of the reasons they arrested him and threatened him like they did, and I think that those stories are probably true and accurate as well, was to sequester it. And the timing of that arrest was very interesting as well, because it was caught up in that T1 thing with the gentleman. Oh, what's his name?
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
yes.
And so there's so much evidence. But what was funny was when I was looking at this information yesterday, I'm looking at these old tweets, and I forgive me, everybody. There was a link to Reddit, and in Reddit there was links back to old tweets, and it was so funny to read some of the old threads. So it was like, WTF, who is this, Steven Neroff? I've never heard of him. He wasn't a creator. I've never heard of him. I've been around Ethereum since almost the beginning. I invested so early. I never heard of this guy, and it kind of fell into, I kind of thought that they weren't bots, but they were probably intel people trying to bury this guy, who he was, discredit him. And that's what they do, right? So I think his story has a lot of credibility, but even forget his interaction in the beginning parts of the inception of Ethereum. This man has accomplished a lot with a lot of patents. He's extremely intelligent. He was very successful prior to, ETH creation. And shoot, Vitalik used to live in his home. They're roommates. He funded so much in the very beginning, and he funded it from the beginning because what he thought ETH would become, and it sounded so libertarian as of how people were flocking to Bitcoin in the early days, and he wanted to make a change for the better for humanity. And what happened? He got caught up in some ugly shit.
What I will say, it is weird, and I still have not pieced together everything. I have DMs with Steven, right? So I've talked to him. I think I've talked to him on the phone once. He's definitely a smart guy, But I also have DMs with Boring Sleuth, who now they're at odds, even if they were working together for a while. So I don't know what's going on there. I have people that I knew from the blockchain community in Seattle. I'm no longer, thankfully, in Seattle, but they absolutely are at odds with Steven. And so it's so weird, because I know some of these people. It's like everything I've ever known about them. They're, honorable, normal people, interested in this technology. And it's so strange, and even inside of Dragon Chain, we've had so many just absurd things happen that I would never, and I've been in startup world for decades before this, and I've never had anything like the stuff I've experienced in the crypto world. And I don't know if it's because it's the money or the banks or the nations. There's something that goes on in crypto that is far different than what you would normally expect in a regular business. You end up developing an extremely thick skin, and it's probably a good thing. It's a good exercise to go through in life, but it's not fun. So there's a lot of that, and so I don't want to, because I didn't get a chance, and I felt really stupid, frankly, about it, because I didn't get a chance to invite Steven on. I didn't get a chance to invite Boring Sleuth on, and that's my fault. But I was sick last week, and I was just kind of out of it. I should have gotten to that, but either way, so maybe they could come on at some point, and we could rehash some of it too. But
I think that's where we were talking a little bit right before this show got started, and I think that's where this whole ETH gate is so much bigger than even just Ethereum. I had sent Nerioff some links from Boring Sleuth. He had retweeted some of those, and I've never talked to Boring Sleuth, but I've talked to Nerioff, and this was before they got sideways or whatever. Yeah. And then when they got sideways, that confused me because I felt the same way. I was like, wait, they're both kind of talking the same narrative. Then I started looking into how much it's connected with, like we were talking before we got started, Ericsson and Swiss banking and the Clinton Foundation. And that's where I'm like, okay, maybe that's where things go sideways. This isn't about inside Ethereum. This is like global issues. You can use what other words. Yep. And that's where the loyalties diverge, maybe. I don't know.
Yep.
So I'm not clear on that either.
I think he's believable. I mean, I actually did a ton of research before I had him on. So I tried to watch every other podcast that he'd done, and I chatted with him in advance on this because I wanted to do kind of a deeper dive on this. But from the perspective of what I said to him is, look, because I've watched a lot of this podcast. I'm like, look, a lot of people don't know what security tokens are. They don't know what tokenization is. They don't know what the SEC's role is, or what companies have to do to raise money. Like because his story is so complex and it intersects so many different things because it's Ethereum and T0 and actually the timeline intersects with a whole bunch of things. But I did some research on this because having been involved with Ravencoin in the very beginning in 2018, I know all the T0 guys and so I reached out. And so at least with respect to the T0 aspect of his story, it checks out. I mean, I've
right. I guess that's what I'm saying is, can it be not the things not be mutually exclusive? Can it be that, yes, his story checks out, but there may be loyalties elsewhere as well?
Absolutely.
That change things.
It's a complicated, and it's complicated too, because we don't know what's behind the scenes, and because there's so much money to be made by the people that end up controlling whatever they do. It's just, and power, right? They don't want. It's like it's like fire. They don't want humans to be able to have this power, right? So they're going to do everything they can to kill anybody who brings that power to humans, right? Yeah, that's what it's about. So.
Well, and now that ETFs are getting involved with Ethereum, now there are more bag holders that want to protect their interests. So it's going to be harder and harder for Stephen to get his story out. Just like Roger Ver exposing Bitcoin, miraculously 3 weeks after he publishes a book, he's in a Spanish prison where he essentially can't speak. So yeah, I think it's absolutely likely that people are they're trying to silence people that have information about that's contrary to their financial interests, whether it's true or not.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Next, many of us lived through the hijacking of Bitcoin, and Roger Ver and Steve Patterson's book helped us relive this. It was a sad tale, very much. If intel agencies and the state did this to Bitcoin, then the logical conclusion, other blockchains have been hijacked. My question, has the Intel superstate hijacked Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other blockchains, and does ETH help to prove this? Who wants to take that one? It's the last question, then we can go into some other stuff.
I think with the comment Rob made, we wanted the ETF so bad, but it really is a huge part of hijacking fucking Bitcoin. And what any crypto that we allow them to trade on paper, we're screwing those people, which that's what the SEC is good at.
Yeah,
screwing away from these people.
I said that
to go to these people.
Everybody's like, oh, the Bitcoin ETF, all this money is going to flow in, and they're thinking all of the same model as the 401ks, right? All that money that these people are going to store, they're going to put into Bitcoin now. And it's like, it's all paper, guys. You think they're going to actually buy the Bitcoin?
The same thing they did to silver. Yeah. Instead.
It's ridiculous.
Now
and
they
it's
can
like
manipulate the price.
Rue the day that stuff passes, because now we're tied at the hip with Wall Street. Oh, great. And I don't have the right blood for that. I'm not in that crowd. So doesn't do me any good.
So I will tell you my theory on this is that, so Bitcoin, I think, was clearly hijacked, and I recommend people read Roger's book. I'm actually going to be at PorcFest next week, speaking about since Roger's not able to speak, I'm going to be on a panel with Jeffrey Tucker and Steve Patterson, who's the co-author of the book, talking about hijacking Bitcoin.
Nice.
And I think the fact that Roger can't be there, that in and of itself tells you a lot about what you need to know about hijacking Bitcoin. But I believe that when you follow this, and Roger's book goes from kind of the inception of Bitcoin to 2017. So it's basically this, it was peer-to-peer digital cash. It was fast and cheap. Then it switched to digital gold. And his book kind of, suggests that, or shows that not only were devs paid by people tied to intelligence agencies, but that also groups like Blockstream, who make money selling second layer solutions to financial services companies and banks to solve the problem of Bitcoin being slow and expensive, he clearly documents that that's the case. The next part of this, though, what you find is that the same people that funded the changes to Bitcoin to kind of turn this Bitcoin, the digital gold narrative, funded all 3 US CBDC pilots. So my theory is this: both Ethereum and Bitcoin were hijacked. Bitcoin was hijacked for one specific purpose, to make it so that there is no competition for central bank digital currencies. Ethereum was hijacked so that there's obviously a freedom and tyranny aspect to everything. Peer-to-peer tokenization could change the world. If you have peer-to-peer tokenization, people can trade any asset of any size anywhere in the world nearly freely and instantly. ETH had to be stopped and hijacked, and what they're building is this regulated liability network, which is it's a CBDC, part of the CBDC rollout. So you're going to have CBDCs on a ledger with all other digital assets that are tokenized, that are managed and monitored by multiple third parties. So I think that it's the hammer on both of those two. And now everybody that's a bag holder in Bitcoin and a bag holder in Ethereum, they're doubling down on their tribal positions, right? Like, oh, this is going to be great, even though the technology doesn't work and everything else. And in the meantime, they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars building and rolling out this dystopian infrastructure.
And the cherry on all of that
That's
is
it.
them going after Reggie Middleton. And now he's being lawfared. And there's a way to support him. There's a legal fund that you guys can give to.
You don't have the Dragon Chain Legal Fund in the description of the videos, by the way.
Oh, yeah, we need that. We need
Yeah,
that.
I went there to copy and paste it, and it wasn't there. So
They've recently seized Reggie's assets and are putting the patents at risk. And of course, that is the patents for peer-to-peer transfer.
Well, can I bring that up? Because I like what Aaron mentioned is, I mean, it's interesting to me because when Bitcoin, early days Bitcoin, I was looking at it from a tech point of view, and I knew, a lot of the discussion was around, the banks aren't going to like this, the Fed's not going to like this, the U.S. isn't going to like this, because it was in competition. It's a currency, right? And it's better. It's a far better currency, or was, and it's an interesting thing that when token sales started to happen, that all of a sudden the big VCs got involved, and they were, sending people in. And it's like, because they lost their shirt in 2017, 2018. They saw that all the money was not going to them anymore. And the weird thing about it was that anybody in the world could take part. And you'd think about it, okay, if you stand back, this is far better for society. It's a better way to decide winners and losers, because everybody can get whatever info they can. They don't have to go through these funnels where, if you don't play golf with the right dude in Northern California, you're never going to get in on that new project that everybody knows. Everybody knew Google was going to be a winner. Everybody knew Facebook was going to be a winner. Everybody knew all this stuff. Could you get in with all those? Nope. Sorry, you're not one. You're not one of us. Sorry, you have to wait. And now we're going to screw you when we IPO. And so that was the reason that everybody got letters. And frankly, you still see financial people, and the same financial people who back in the day would tell you that Bitcoin doesn't make any sense. It's meaningless. That, you tell them, it's like, no, you did just buy something, right? It's like, no, it's stupid. Right. And then these same people will tell you that the 2017, 2018 ICO craze was a bubble. And I tell you, it was not a bubble. It was the first time in human history that anybody in the world could take part in those early markets. And that's how people can get rich. And that's how normal people got rich. And it was such an odd thing. And for anybody to say we don't need more of that, they're freaking deluded, stupid people don't understand. That's how you make the world better. You let normal people realize that they can and that will lead to better projects, and that'll lead, and yes, you're always going to have scams, but guess what? I never was involved in a project that ended up rugging anyone or scamming anyone, because I was very diligent about what I bought, right? It's like, this is something I would use. This is something that I could see working. This is something that all that. And it's just crazy. And the fact that people aren't clamoring to say we should get that model back, improved, sure. But that's what, if anything, the SEC or someone, even if it's an industry org, should have been setting up. And we talked to Congress people about it. We laid out or like structures. You could do this, you could do this. Here are some options you could do to make it so that scams would pretty much be pushed away. You wouldn't be able to scam anyone for very long or for very much if you put in a structure. They don't want that structure. It's crazy.
Well, they don't want that. They don't want that structure, but it is this idea that, these ICOs are scams. But then, let's look at Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff was the president of NASDAQ. Yep. And was involved as a regulator, and he pulled a I don't even know how long his Ponzi lasted, but you can fill it. The issue is the SEC doesn't prevent scams. The only thing is, as long as you comply with their paperwork, you can still offer a scam to the public. It's just that, have lawyers made $50,000 in the process? And is this something that gets preferential access to existing institutional investors? It's literally, it's almost like the Biden paperwork thing again. It's a paper. You fill out the SEC paperwork, you can still scam people. But
Bingo. Bingo. Yeah. I feel like I've been scammed. I've been scammed by the SEC and ETH. ETHgate. I feel like I've been scammed. Who can I go sue and argue and get a class action lawsuit and get my buddies together and say, hey, I've been scammed.
But that's the thing. We the people don't get paid back. They are going to fine ETH or fine whatever. They're going to do their pay to play. And then that money is going to go in some crony's pocket and his kid's college fund. And then the next day goes on, and we the people get hurt, and they all go on with their contract.
And see, I believe in I do believe in the Wild West. I'm okay with that. You know why? Because I also believe that we as a community or humanity as a whole can utilize things like blockchain for consensus on is this a scam or not, and everyone can prove up that they actually purchased something and that it was a poor product or something of that nature. We don't need the government to come in and be an unfair player and pick winners and losers. No, we the people can actually self-regulate far better and have a level playing field, a fair court, and that's what we need. We don't need the SEC to pick winners and losers and say that they're here to protect us. It's
and here's
bullshit.
I'll tell you where we are with this too, because if various things, in fact, I think oddly enough, I was not a fan at the time, but CZ was a hero in the instance of the FTX fraud, and it's an interesting thing that not only would Sam Bankman-Fried have been writing SEC policy for us to follow, but this is the type of shit that our press gives us. This, like, oh, what a Chad. This is you wouldn't want to prosecute Sam Bankman-Fried. He's a good-looking guy. Look at this. It's just so crazy to me. The whole thing is fixed, all of it. So,
that it's a great point. And here's another thing about Nero talking about the centralization of Ethereum. When we heard the SEC, they're not a security. Well, wait a minute. How you've been defining what a security is in crypto, ETH is checking all the boxes saying that it is a security. So when I heard that, I said to myself, well, someone got their payoff, obviously, because they're picking winners and losers. Yep. That was my first thought, because all along I was thinking, you know what? If there is some kind of true justice in the world, it's kind of a warped thought. that the SEC is going to say Ethereum is a security when it is effing centralized. And thanks to Stephen Neroff for bringing that up.
Yeah. The more normal people see it, the more likely we will get justice, because the normal people are the ones that have all the rope and live near lampposts.
But it's they can do and say whatever they want to do. We have a class system where serfs. I mean, remember they came out and like, was this anything that is supposed to go up in value or might go up in value or sold as something that could go up in value as a security? We're all like baseball cards. You're going to go arrest little Timmy, you know? But then I think anything that is sold as collectible, you know, you're going to go arrest grandma for all of her Hummels and the plate collection she got. You know, it's ridiculous. But everyone is starting to see that it's ridiculous. So I think we're getting closer and closer to the rope time. But not out of anger. Not out of anger.
Never out of anger. It's just out of very logical.
No, it's out of frustration.
Loops.
It's out of frustration. People are just like, whatever.
I got to tell you funny quick story ties into this. Believe me. So I met my vet yesterday because I spent $1,000 because my cat had a seizure. It turned out to be a panic attack.
Oh boy.
So anyway, long story short, I'm talking to my vet. I love this guy. And I said, have you heard of you remember the old Bugs Bunny commercial where Bugs Bunny is like on the map and he's got the saw and he's cutting out Texas and Texas floats away? I said, you know what? We need a 50-state secession. We need Bugs Bunny to go up there on that map and just with the saw cut DC and push DC out to the ocean, watch it tip over. And he says, I think you're right. That's probably a much better idea than say Texit or CalExit or whatever. Let's just start with DC.
Maybe we can get that Russian sub that's off the coast of Florida to target.
Man, we're going to get canceled.
Biggest suggestion.
Right. So speaking of which, we're going to go. It is now meme time. Okay. So we are past the hour. And that was the last question. So thank you, IAM, for all the questions. And
you all better get in there and start posting some questions and some themes.
Yeah.
I'm going to dominate, take over the show.
Yep.
I sent some memes to you, Joe, by the way.
Excellent. All right. In private chat or elsewhere?
In World Blockchain Roundtable and in just privately to you on Telegram.
Right on. All right. I will pull those up too. Okay. So what are the current events we want to cover?
There aren't any. It's all propaganda. It's all manipulation. It's all agenda.
Yeah, me and Lisa I talked about on the show that was it Monday night in the Hunter trial. I actually saw headlines that said the laptop is real, and I mean it was like big news because he was in court and it was brought up. Like I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I really don't.
He's CIA. I'm telling you, he was untouchable. He's a sacrificial lamb to try to prove up that justice does have a blindfold, and the Trump trial was legit, and he was essentially untouchable. That's why he has gone so long. Now it's possible the blob, the deep state, the super intel state, whatever you want to call it, is now saying, well, let's go ahead and string up Hunter on these, BS charges, if you will, and get some mileage out of it. And also, let's see if we, maybe they've turned on Biden and cut a deal with Trump, or they're just going to wait it out. Trump's going to get elected, and it may be a little bit of revenge. It may not, or just a little bit, or who knows. And it'll all be just propaganda, manipulation, BS.
What about was it Merrick Garland that got
censored?
Not censored. I thought he got where is it?
Yes, not censored. I'm sorry, you're right.
Or impeached, or whatever.
Not impeached.
Not impeached.
It's convicted of contempt.
Contempt of Congress.
Contempt of Congress.
Where we got Steve Bannon in there. We have.
He's supposed to report to jail the 1st of July.
Yeah.
Bannon.
Bannon,
Bannon.
Bannon, and then we already have who's the gentleman that's already in prison from the Trump administration as an advisor for same type of charges. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'm so horrible with names. But it just proves that it's lawfare. And if the next turnaround it turns into just lawfare all over again, then it's tit for tat, and it's really just getting the population all riled up, keeping us divided so they can keep us under control.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's sad.
I'll say something interesting that in the past couple of weeks, I mean, I've heard the word lawfare before, but it's ramped up recently for various reasons, right? That there's something that was very interesting, a 4chan post that I saw would have been, and I saved as much of this conversation as I could, and I lost some of it, but super interesting because it went down to a very philosophical level, and it was talking about the nature of reality and how odd it is that our reality is so law or legalistic focused. And it was a very interesting thing because I've always thought, okay, accountants, for example, is like, why are your products crappy now, right? Your products are crappy because the accountants are passive evil. That they don't mean to be evil; they're just trying to save a buck. So you save a fifth of a cent or something on every cereal box, and now the boxes won't close, right? You can't keep a box closed, right? They used to close, they used to stay closed. Nope, they suck now, right? Because it's it's like it's just an annoyance with normal life, and that's capitalism, and that's the evil of capitalism, if you ask me, is this little stupid shaving off of value just because I'm still buying it. Lawyers, however, in my opinion, are active evil. If you were to put it into, like, say, a D&D environment, they are the actual evil in the world because they're
crucial evil.
Yeah, they're actually going around and doing bad things for money. And anyway, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but the fact that the whole world is set up like that, and there are rules inside of rules inside of rules, and if you don't know, and if it's not clear, it becomes a tyranny itself. And so the law is not really the law. You talk to a lawyer, it doesn't matter if someone breaks the law and cheats you. What matters is if you can get someone to prosecute them, and that is a totally political question. It doesn't matter at all what the law is that they broke. So,
well, and back to the Nerioff thing. I mean, they were one of the things. And talking with him or watching, maybe I was watching one of the interviews. He was saying that they had a list, and they were asking him to come up with dirt on some of the, like Naomi Brockwell, for God's sake. I mean, and that's where, like, this litigious world that we live in, if you read Fruit from a Poisonous Tree, there are so many laws on the books that if they want to point that legal gun at you, they can find something to put you, behind those bars for. So that's where it's dangerous. That's where it's dangerous to celebrate the win against Hunter.
Yeah, it's not a win. Yeah,
no.
Aaron, you mentioned it, in your interview with Steve Nerioff. Two things that struck me. One was the China ties and that investment, that came from there on decentralization of ETH. And the second point was when he was talking about that list that they were trying to, you're trying to remember all the different people on the list and to give up names and this kind of thing, that like a phishing episode that Lisa talked about. Lisa, you brought up that post here from Truth Labs about ETH and in its ties,
Globy ties with OKC.
It's, boy, what a giant corrupted cesspool. Well, I think cesspool's a better description than swamp, even though technically DC was built in a swamp or on a swamp.
Well, and I brought that up at the Enemies of the State bash in DC, where I was speaking about Roger, but it was for Assange and Snowden and Ross Ulbricht and Ian Freeman as well. And I went through because going through this list, it's like, this Nerioff list, these are all my friends, and a lot of these people are actually in New Hampshire. And, Naomi Brockwell is in New Hampshire. And it's like, well, why is Naomi Brockwell on the list? Well, it turns out the real reason Naomi Brockwell was on that list is that she wrote an amicus brief in the library case. So she was being targeted because of her support of library and her support of that endeavor. So that list, Patrick Byrne was on the list, Bruce Fenton was on the list, Roger Ver was on the list. I mean, again, and this goes to what we were saying earlier about they're going after peer-to-peer digital cash and they're going after peer-to-peer tokenization. And that's what that list really was if you dig into it. And it's horrifying because, again, it's completely weaponized. But I think the problem that I have is, so I went to this libertarian convention thing and I was at Trump's talk. And so there are a lot of people, a lot of libertarians buying into this. We should vote for Trump for vengeance. Literally, they're explicitly stating it's about vengeance. And so people are saying, we're going to throw all of these people in prison. And so, this is kind of the, that's all anybody's talking about is whose political enemies are going to go to jail first and for the longest. And that's the entire frame of the political debate. And that's bad. That's a really bad outcome.
But then they must have been really disarmed if they watched Trump's interview with Dr. Phil, because he actually says the opposite of that. They, towards the end of the interview, Dr. Phil says something like, you have this opportunity to bring the country together if you do win, whatever. And, are you going to do this litigious tit for tat kind of thing? And he said, he doesn't say no or yes, but he says, I think you're going to be really happy to see, and he said, I used to say, terrible Hillary, or I can't remember which nickname he called her. He goes, now we say beautiful Hillary. And he said, I think it doesn't have to be that way. And so he kind of lends to the thing that he's not going to, he says something like, it's not good to arrest the president's wife or something like that. Like that he's not going to hang him up from the closest tree. I don't know.
Well, and that is interesting because in 2016, the Trump fans were chanting "lock her up, lock her up," and then clearly he didn't. And then I think Trump came out and said he'll pardon Hunter.
Yeah.
But at the same time, save him. Yeah. But at the same time, he puts out press releases saying this is about vengeance and going after everybody that went after him.
Yeah, I remember a couple of months ago, he said he was going to wipe. I mean, just nuke everybody.
You can't trust the damn thing he says.
Yeah.
No.
So it doesn't matter. None of it matters. What matters is what Israel wants. So if Netanyahu gives him a call, he's going to do that. So, but that's about it. Anything else you can't trust because he's gonna pardon a bunch of rappers and he's gonna pardon a bunch of what's his name? His son-in-law's crony partners and everybody else. Anybody who supports him, he doesn't care about. So I don't know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be crazy.
I put the Twitter post in the private chat here.
Okay.
After you posted the booty juice with Biden. It's from the same day, but he's scary looking like a mannequin.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell? And by the way, I mean, do I understand correctly? The petrodollar is that done? Is that done now? Is that over? Where are we at with that?
Not officially, but they are giving. They've frozen the Russian assets, and then the G7, I guess, has approved to give a loan to Ukraine of I can't even remember what the number is, like $600 billion or something to Ukraine today of the Russian assets.
I think we're ignoring it now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, it goes back to what I've been saying is that until we stop looking at DC for solutions and start looking inward and start looking, within our community, and calling out DC for what it is. Sean, you did it well. Public schools aren't public schools; they're government schools. Well, when we start calling out DC for what it is, a mafia cartel state, and that we're the illusion of democracy and the illusion of living under a constitutional republic.
Stop saying leaders or officials.
Yes,
servants. Because they hate it. Why would they need it? And that but that's what if you go into politics, you shouldn't be able to go in, you know, comfortable and come out a multi-millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be able to do that. It should be to serve your country. But yeah, Beatles finally stopped saying it. Everyone's servant now. Servant, if it's anything with the government, it's call it government.
Not government employee, government servant. Hey, Aaron, I got a question on the CBDC front. Tell me how the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, and the IMF are playing into this, and if more and more countries roll out a CBDC within their country, is that mean that eventually we have a one world CBDC, and the BIS and the IMF are intertwined with all of that?
Yeah, the end state of this is one global digital currency backed by, I don't even know if you necessarily call it a central bank digital currency, but it's a digital currency backed by energy credits, and where basically your social credit score is tied to your carbon usage. That's the end state. And so the way that it's being rolled out right now is you have 134 countries pursuing CBDCs. But these CBDCs are tied to these things called regulated liability networks. So we have a regulated liability network project in the US that's that thing that tracks digital assets and CBDCs. The UK is also building a regulated liability network. So depending upon the size of the country and everything else, they're developing regulated liability networks. Those will interact with each other. So you'll have these ledgers with CBDCs and digital assets that then communicate with one another. And then once that's all built in, then you can actually move towards just unifying what the underlying CBDC is. And that's how you move it to one coin. And the BIS is directly involved in this because they are providing funding and they are direct participants in the regulated liability network projects. The role of the IMF and the role of the World Bank is to basically enforce where they're trying to get. So basically what we're doing is we're trying to convert the developed nations to this platform, but developing nations don't necessarily have as many legacy systems to deal with. So the role of the IMF and the World Bank is to basically force countries like Nigeria and other countries to adopt CBDCs and to adopt policies from the get-go that will work ultimately with where they're trying to go, reverse engineering everybody else.
Same. Yeah, makes sense. Scary thoughts, scary times.
No, it's horrifying. And again, they state it. I mean, you go to the Bank of International Settlements website. I mean, they're working on these policy toolkits and they're talking about this. Like everything that I'm saying isn't even a theory. It's actually, they're the primary source of the information. So these are actual projects that they are funding and working towards. And the IMF is even, I think they called it, I don't want to confuse this with the other thing, but WorldCoin, I think, is that other Sam Altman thing. But they've actually explicitly talked about moving towards a one world global digital currency, and so that's in the plans. Now, how that ultimately ends up working out, I mean, there are a lot of competing players here, right? Swift doesn't want to give up their position, so they're trying to develop their version of a platform. So there are competing things even within these realms of like ledgers to track everything. So there's still some infighting going on there, but it's very clear the direction it's going into. So
what about the BRICS nations now, and CBDCs within the BRICS nations?
Well, they're working on that. I mean, Russia's already talked about a CBDC. I mean, India has has been piloting a CBDC, and there are a fairly large number. It's not massive retail adoption. They've been working on pilot projects related to CBDCs as well. So, and China actually has more CBDC accounts than any country on Earth. So there's no so. The funny thing is, it doesn't matter whether you're a BRICS nation or not a BRICS nation. Nations representing 98% of the global GDP are all developing CBDCs. And part of this is, for me, I even think the BRICS versus the West, or China versus the US, or Russia versus the US is all manufactured polarity, and that it's all theater. And the end of this is these are just steps for us to be like, oh, these are the bad guys, these are the bad guys. And every time these nation states fight each other, we get more surveillance infrastructure on
Right.
us. We get punished
Right.
for it. We get more bank secrecy laws and surveillance cameras. And so the whole thing is theater, in my
And
opinion.
higher taxes, and next is the draft, and you must submit, your individual liberty to go fight someone else's war. Agreed. What about the other question I had? Oh, shoot, escapes. Oh, now here's some news of the day. What was it? The petrodollar contract for Saudi Arabia expired after 50 years. Some say that that's kind of little puff of smoke, and others say that's a large deal in the death of the dollar. What do you all think?
I think it's already happened. They said that their number one focus in trading and for oil is going to be China. They said that they made that commitment to them that they would be their number one.
Yes, and I think that they trust the Chinese. Was it yuan, but more than the dollar at this point? But I disagree with that premise, though, because China's got a lot of issues as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say I've been hearing about that for years, that this is going to happen. We have to be worried about it. And now that if it happened, and that's why I was even asking, did it actually happen? Because there's nothing out there about it. And
Sunday midnight it expired.
Well, and here's the thing that it's not just, in my opinion anyway, I'm not an economist by any means, but thankfully, but that the thing that's different in the world that matters related to that question is, okay, in the past, let's say you go to Weimar, Germany, and you look at what happened to their currency. You look at various things that happened in countries in South America. What happens when they're, and essentially the inflation starts. Nigerian. I have a $5 billion note back behind me, right? That the inflation starts, and people have to start adjusting how they live, because when they get their paycheck, they have to immediately go buy canned items or things that they need to eat, because the next day or later that afternoon they won't even be able to afford them because the money will have been inflated, right? So rapid inflation, and we'll have that. So my assumption is we will have that. I'm blown away that we don't already, probably based entirely on bullets and blood sacrifice. We have not seen that so far in the U.S., even with as much money has been printed. But the crazy thing is nothing's manufactured here anymore. And therefore, when our money is worth nothing,
right,
we're not going to be able to go over and buy it from the places we do right now. So the good thing is all the manufacturing will move back. The bad thing is all the steel mills are shut down. All the coal mines are shut down. Nothing's there to start it. It'll have to be from scratch, right? So,
and the individuals that could start those back up are already retired or dead and have passed away long ago. And, they wouldn't be able to start up those boilers or whatever it is. So the time to get them restarted would take a lot.
Oh, yeah. But, if the need's there, it's going to happen. It's just a super interesting thing, because there's going to be a massive amount of starvation and, bad stuff that happens between here and there, because we won't be able to afford anything from outside the U.S. So hold on to what you have, and, buy precious metals and heavy.
We were, I mean, I agree with the metals comment, but we were energy efficient. Or sufficient, self-sustaining under Trump, and we were going to be energy dominant, or on our pathway to be energy dominant. So maybe that whole pathway doesn't really matter.
We were never independent.
Yes, we were, Sean. And my other point is that energy sources are changing. They're looking into things like fusion, the hydrogen. Engine is, they're not killing the guy who's reinventing it again, those kind of things. And so if energy changes, then maybe that petrodollar is not the basis of the dollar anymore. Maybe we go to a metals backed dollar, or our energy source changes.
I thought we were energy independent back then too. But what I found out is that our oil.
You just want to fight with me.
No, our oil that we get, we can't. Our refineries aren't set up to refine that oil. So we actually exported all of our oil and imported oil from other places to our refineries.
Yeah, but that's still
So,
that's an equation. That's a calculus. I mean, that doesn't mean that like if we couldn't have done that, or if it wasn't for this stupid globalist stuff where they ship bananas all the way from South America to Asia and then to North America, or all that crap that they do. I mean, there's so much stupid things that goes on and it's again. That's
yeah,
the accountant
but it's
doing
still
that.
other people are in
There,
control.
there was a penny to be saved. So by God, this tangerine is going to make that trip across this ocean twice. Because we
It
can
wasn't a
save
penny to be
somehow.
saved. It was a penny to be made in somebody else's pocket. Yeah.
Yes, well, yeah, that's true.
Oh,
It's a kickback
so,
somehow. Yeah.
So this entire energy scarcity situation is an absolute scam, but it's
Yes.
part of this technocratic agenda. We've had probably the technology for free and abundant energy for 100 years. One of the most shameful aspects, and I have become incredibly anti-intellectual property for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is when you study the Invention Secrecy Act of, I can't remember what year it was, I want to say 1930s, but I could be off on that. But the Invention Secrecy Act basically allows any department of the federal government to come in and say, when somebody files a patent, if this patent we deem to be a threat to the national security or economic security of the country, then we will suppress the patent. And if the inventor
they can take the patent. I was talking about this on the show with Lisa, that they admit that the CIA and I think one other 3-letter agency have a person full time that goes through all the patents, and they can, if you file a patent to protect yourself, they can take it, and you can't talk about it, you can't say anything about it, and they own it.
No, and you get thrown into federal prison immediately if you talk about your invention that's been suppressed. And it turns out that each of the departments, so if the Department of Energy is involved, and we know all of these organizations are captured, then basically, ExxonMobil can come in and say, well, this is going to cost us jobs if this new energy technology is implemented, and therefore it's a threat to economic security. So 5,000 patents plus have been suppressed under this. And again, to then understand where this is going, this idea that the digital currency will be backed by energy credits goes back to this technocracy movement. But MasterCard has rolled out a credit card that is tied to carbon credits. You can get this card today. I think they launched it in 2019. So MasterCard is already working with 134 companies that most of them are WEF partner companies. They're already tracking your expenditures for gas, airlines, even hotels. And that's being fed back into the financial system and already being used to control access to credit. And that is the end game on all of this. And so I don't remember even what the original threat is, but I will say that the energy scarcity thing is a hoax, and it's a hoax intended to create this complete cap and trade system that only WEF partner companies benefit from, and they use climate alarmism as the fear-based tactic to sell it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. Well, what is it? So the root problem is what? Our government is against us. Our government has turned its weapons on us.
Yeah. That's the that's kind of the end of it. It's like, well,
hell, intellectual property. Well, we were supposed to be, here to, our founding fathers. It was, pursuit of happiness and property and liberty. So.
Yep. I don't know. It's weird too, because there's so much negative going on, but I don't know. It seems like everything is moving in the craziest direction possible, but it's leading to where they're not going to be able to control what they have been controlling for so long. So
the positive thing is more and more people are waking up. You hear that phrase a lot. Lisa and I, thanks to Lisa, she had me on her show and we talked about the levels of political awareness, and more people are climbing those levels. and learning,
Yeah.
to start sourcing information from alternative locations,
Yep.
start questioning, and they're moving up in their levels, and they're finding that they have a growing distrust of, authority, institutions.
Well, and to build on what Aaron was saying, like this lawfare that we're seeing, and that we're seeing what the government is doing and turning it against us, we the people, in our political awareness growth and stages, we're seeing that the money thing is actually a counterfeit of human energy, and that there are actually human trafficking by hijacking our money, our energy. And when you see that it's turning into these systems that we have no control of, that's a form of slavery in itself. And so, if you want to talk about who's human trafficking, the government is using our energy and using these financial systems as human trafficking mechanisms of our energy.
Oh yeah, and we're enslaved right now. It's just that the semantics are different, right? It's like it's more industrialized. I brought up industrialized black magic, right? It's a far more industrialized, modern system of slavery where the slaves don't know they're slaves. They're getting their hamburgers, they're getting their football, they don't care. And they're freaking really diligent, great slaves that live longer than they used to, and you don't have
Yeah,
to.
they don't have to feed the slaves. The slaves feed themselves.
Yeah, and you
Self-feeding
don't even have to pay for the freaking microphones and espionage that you're going to surveillance that you're going to put into people's houses. They will pay for it themselves because it's convenient, and I can just ask Alexa something.
They'll even pay to give you their DNA.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So then you
it's
can
the
create
craziest damn thing ever.
Things to
It's
attack
hilarious.
their friends and family. Yeah.
It's pretty.
Hey, Aaron, how do we link, and Joe, I'll ask you both of this question. How do we tokenize gold and silver in a way that is, blockchain-esque as far as being able to be digital cash? How do we do that and still have no third party?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on that with this point of sale system, and this is actually the tough point about it right now. There are a lot of solutions where there are people that have vaults, and where you can, even some cases where you can get tokenized gold that's in the vault, and you can physically redeem it. So this is a challenge for this is. One thing that I'm looking at is the ability to tokenize gold, and now they're making gold back ATMs. So you can actually bridge the digital and physical realm. So that's not a full solution by any stretch of the imagination, but that's one idea. I've heard other ideas of kind of taking all of the pawn shops and all of the, like 20,000 of these things in the United States. Like, is there any way to somehow tie into a decentralized network of existing organizations? And I don't honestly know, because you're still going to have the fraud risk. So I don't know how to solve it. I would love to see a solution to that. If we can figure out a way to keep it decentralized, but
there are solutions that so the Mint retooled during the Great Infection and put a little security on the silver rounds, on the silver eagles, and some people think that you can scan a piece of silver, and each piece of silver has a different
like a fingerprint,
a different identity, and that information could be put on a distributed ledger. And then those there are machines called ITMs that were also put in all over during the Great Infection, and they take coins. They also can scan IDs. You can write a signature. You could use QR. You can interact with. I have a video on my channel about it, but and my bank president has been working with the Fed. They were doing the new CBDC, but anyway, she's former military, and there's a whole big story behind that. But anyway, I believe that what they're doing is they're going to have the vaults, kind of like Fort Knox, but instead of it being unable to ever be really audited, it will be like a distributed ledger, maybe not blockchain,
But
maybe blockchain, and
that's
have
what
a
they need.
true ledger, but it will have that and then you'll have your app that you can spend, portions of your actually audited because of the scanned, like fingerprinted pieces of physical metal that will be able to be spent.
So
Yeah,
the concern that I have with this is twofold. One, the mints can be confiscated. In fact, that's what happened in the 30s. So anything that's in a vault, or they could literally just take and seize all of it. And then the other issue is if you're using a blockchain that's public, I don't want to get into this issue, which is where we're going, by the way, which is one of the problems with Bitcoin and everything else, is they're
Right.
moving towards a
The
model
public
where you actually have to register. You're going to have to register your digital assets, and if you don't, they'll throw you in prison. So now you've got chain analytics. This is why I mentioned privacy tokens. And I don't know how to do this, but if you could take the technology behind Zano, where you could actually have privacy tokenized gold and silver, and then figure out a way to work with a network of decentralized network of physical locations for the ability to redeem physical metals. I don't know how to do this, but this is the kind of thing that I think if we could figure it out, it would be a game changer, a true game changer.
Well, and that's why. I mean, we've had a deal we discussed a long time ago. No one was ever interested back then, but where you could, a network totally independent that would have secure placement where you could go and audit your own bricks, like or coins that it's going to hold the gold. It let's say it's too much to hold. I don't know. I mean, why would somebody do that? Maybe, but to be able to exchange it, maybe that would work. But where they would have embedded signatures, you would know it's the right one. Ideally, it would be something that is scannable, where there's a asymmetric encryption involved, something that you can prove that it's the piece of gold and whatever else. I mean, I don't know if it's worth it, because people could just hold it, and then for anything over the wire, you can just use something like proof of work. I mean, it's just an odd thing, and it if Bitcoin wasn't captured, I wouldn't see the need for it, but
well,
I don't
isn't that
really
where
trust
Litecoin could come in and then use the privacy layer of Mimblewimble or the MWeb to do those transactions?
I will tell you anything. I don't know enough about some of the algorithms for some of the I have a pretty good trust of Monero and a few of them that have been around for a long while, but I will say that any place where they're trying to say zero knowledge or anything else where it's privacy, anything that is algorithmic, anything that is encryption can't be trusted except for a window of time. Like if you're going to put something on chain, it's going to be there forever, and that encryption will fail in time. So anything that's like that, you have to be really careful with. And so structural is better, and that's why if you can think of it in plain terms and in a way that, for instance, something you could do in physical reality. If I can take a block of gold and I can scan it, and somehow there are plenty of technologies that can make this possible. I can make sure that is the same block of gold that I saw last time. And by the way, when I'm there, I will also, there's some behavior to it. Look to Den that I can also. When I'm there, I'm not just auditing my gold. I'm auditing yours, right? So you're not in town. You're not able to know. You know that yours is still there. I mean, that's a very high level way to describe it. But you could build a system like that would allow you to trust that, but you still, it's physical. So there has to be a place that stuff would live, right? And who knows? There could be some. There are ways to do some of this.
The military could be a part of that, because the military is separate from our government. I know. I'm not talking about.
You don't trust your senator, but you're going to trust the guy. Yeah, no. No thanks.
I trust my military.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, I trust Millie.
Not Millie, not the
Millie's the head
Washington
of the
general,
military.
not the Washington general.
You know, I've got to say that was maybe one of the most horrifying things during Trump's first term was the
My
idea
National Guard.
that there were people rooting for martial law and rooting for all these pedophiles were supposed to get rounded up and we were going to have days of darkness and they were going to be executed. The fact that people were cheering that on is one of the most horrifying things I think I've ever seen. There's like how, so no constitution, no individual rights. We just assume there are white hats with no evidence. And we're going to be like, okay, hoping we can watch on closed caption TV pedophiles being rounded up and executed. That is really frightening.
Why do you think there's no evidence? And if that's the most horrifying thing, then you haven't seen what they've done to children.
I've seen no. So none of that actually happened. I mean, well, we're what are we, like almost 3,000 days into trust the plan? Like none of this stuff has happened.
You're talking about the arrest.
Oh,
the
that's
arrest
Operation
never
Trust,
happened.
by the way. Yeah,
the arrest
by the
never
way.
happened. The pedophilia did happen. I
Right.
think is what you're trying to say, right, Aaron? I want to make sure you understood you correctly.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying pedophilia doesn't happen, but I will say we kind of talked about this earlier. It's one of the largest drug dealer on the planet is the CIA. The government is probably the largest trafficker of children, and so I've dug enough into the military to I'm not seeing where these white hats. I'm seeing some black hats in the military. This idea that there are these anonymous white hats does not appear apparent to me.
Well, I'm not saying there isn't military industrial complex. I think we all understand that. I'm talking more about like our National Guard, our neighbors, our, this is like where we do need smaller community, small government, trusting our National Guard, which are people that we know in our community.
Well, we can say
Millie.
that. We can say that, and that's true to a point. But if you look at history and the way we have lived for the eternity of the human race, it's not how it is. I got to pay my family. I'm just following orders. It's just a job. It's not personal. I hate it, but it's what's the law? I mean, look at prohibition. There's so many things that
it's extortion at the individual job level is what you're saying.
Yeah, people follow orders. I don't think. I think if there is an actual boogaloo, I've said this before. I don't think it's going to be, me grabbing one of my guns and going in the street and fighting. I think it's going to be handled within the police, handled within the military, and that's maybe a little spillover, but that's it. Because whoever,
I don't think anybody could predict how anything like that is going to. If you looked at anything in history, even look at the way the Cold War ended, nobody could predict how that stuff pans out. So, and by the way, I want to know what you guys know about. I think. And I can't find it. I was looking for some text on it, but Operation Trust. It was something that happened during the Bolshevik Revolution in the Soviet Union, that the White Army and the Red Army were fighting, and the people who supported the White Army were given a lot of propaganda that literally said, "Trust the plan. We're working behind the scenes. We have it handled." And it was literally propaganda from the Red Army to keep the normal people who would have supported the White Army from doing anything on their own. Sit back and just relax. Don't do anything. The white hats have it. We're going to take care of stuff. You don't have to worry. You don't need to do anything on your own. That happened.
Yes, it's that's actually a common intelligence move, behind the lines, to weaken the enemy. It's very common.
Yeah. So
that's
what I think
it's
of
a distraction
stuff right now. So yeah. I asked McAfee about Q, and he mentioned that some people think he's Q, and it's like that was the other thing that was like, that's interesting, right? It's like
His ego kicks in.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Going back to this tokenization, it was kind of funny. I'm such a nerd. This past weekend, I was digging into um, junkyards. How many cars are in the junkyard? What's the total asset value of the junkyards around the U.S.? What's the inflow, outflow? And when you take in, the battery and the lead and the copper and the steel and the rubber from the tires and everything, it's somewhere upwards to about $10 billion that is out there that could be tokenized, shall we say, by the auto recyclers or something of that nature, because they almost have identical inflow as outflow. And so now I'm thinking, well, what could you tokenize that? Could that be some kind of, they're essentially pledging, but not pledging their asset and get a, transaction fee, shall we say? And so there's call it $10 billion that could be tokenized and used as a peer-to-peer electronic cash as some sort of backing, if you will. And then I thought of, hey, wait a minute. This is a crazy idea. What about Satoshi Nakamoto's wallet? Let's just tokenize that sucker and let the maxis go ahead and keep talking about Bitcoin, as digital gold, and keep inflating it. And we'll digitize Satoshi's wallet as, hey, listen, if you crack the code, okay, well, then you get those tokens. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and use it as digital backing. It was kind of a wacky idea, but I thought I'd share that, throw that out there. I was nerding out over the value of lead and tires and fluids and metal and steel.
Metal that's out there.
Yep.
How can we tokenize it?
So the issue with it, so tokenization is, I've spent so much. I mean, when I got done with political activism, my entire focus was going to be on just asset tokenization in general. And the thing is that tokenization is great for getting rid of third parties in the middle of transactions. The problem is you still have to actually have trust in who the issuer is. So the tokenization just gets rid of corruption in the middle, but I guess one of the things that I've realized in the last few years is like, man, we actually have a deficit of actual trust and people dealing in good faith. And I don't know how we solve that. To me, so that's actually the root problem, right? We have boy, if anybody's got any ideas on that, I certainly.
That's an ethical, moral dilemma problem.
It's cultural.
Yes.
And I think when you look at it for projects, why was it possible for Bitcoin to be taken over, to be hijacked, right? It's cultural. It is because the people who understood it didn't realize what was at risk, maybe weren't strong enough, maybe weren't, a lot of them are engineers, right? Frankly, a lot of the people that knew when it was happening, when the forks were, when all that debate was happening, the engineers were making engineering arguments, but the other guys were making marketing arguments and were going out and attacking people and making it hard to make engineering arguments. And it's because it's cultural. I think that every project and every nation needs what is essentially a freaking religion. It needs to be something where this is what we believe. This is why we believe it. There could be little intricacies on, stuff, but I'm saying that's how you keep things like that from happening in reality, because people will believe something. And if that changes, then there's a reason to change it. And I'm not against obvious things happen where people understand, oh, that wasn't right. Okay. But that's where we're at now. Right. But right now, nobody has any honor. You can't trust a damn person out there, or very few people. Right. And frankly, some of the solutions to it, I will say, relate to behavior, and a lot of the stuff that we've done, mostly in research where it is, but some in practice, like with Den and stuff, where the thing that you are trusting has evidence behind it. So like, if you wanted to do a carbon credit system, you should damn well have evidence for all the things that you're saying. Because right now, any carbon credit system out there is just going to be some BS of just some Fortune 500 company saying, oh, we did something, we planted a tree, right? It's like, well, show me the picture of the tree. Let me see that it's different than the other tree that you planted, right? If it's something on content, or if it's something on, that I did a thing and therefore it weighs in on chain, that thing should be, the evidence that I did that thing should be on chain. It should have some consensus. There should be a prediction market behind it with people weighing in. I don't believe that, or I do believe that, so that people can then measure whether that evidence is sufficient to what I'm saying.
If
right?
we do go with that, though, I think it might be like the end, because everybody jokes about, people have it going to Davos or wherever, talking about how people should eat bugs, but they all fly there on private jets and blah, 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 blah. Now, government, servants, fine. But when it comes to just regular people who have a job, like an actor or so, they're not going to get preferential treatment. And they won't stand for that. This is current events. You know that Clooney called the White House and went off on them this week, went off on the president because he talked, they were talking crap about this company that his wife is affiliated with. And he said, my wife might get in trouble because of that. You need to get your shit straight and stop. He just called him on the phone.
You're talking about George Clooney, the actor?
Yeah. Clooney called the White House this week and told them, back off. You might get my wife in trouble. And there's a big financial gala thing to raise money for Biden this weekend. So, I mean, that's so
okay.
Messed up.
We and by the way, World War III is about to start, but he's not going to be able to do it. What do we want to cover real quick? Who wants to go first? We have less than 8 minutes now to get out of here. So, Aaron, what's up? Let's go straight down the line.
What's up?
Yeah, what's up this week or coming up?
What's coming up? Well, in general, or I will say I'm doing if anybody's in South Dakota, I'm going to be in South Dakota this weekend at the Red Pill Expo, giving a talk. It's actually one of the coolest things. I actually talked to G. Edward Griffin on Saturday, and that to me that was thrilling because he's a hero of mine. And so I'm actually going to give this talk, and that I've not given before, but I mentioned it today, is the explanation of CBDCs and tokenization and the whole idea of what's going on there, the interplay between the hijacking of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then what the alternatives are. So that's not really a world event, but that's something I'm excited about. So just thought I'd throw that out there if anybody's in South Dakota.
Right on. Is it going to be on broadcast anywhere, anything like that?
I think they're live streaming it as well. So yeah.
Okay. Right on.
They're live streaming it.
Lisa, what is up?
Very cool. So my hot topic is for people to reach out and help Reggie Middleton right now. He's in the middle of in my opinion, a lawfare fight to protect his patents. And he's got a countdown, I believe, of the 20th of this month to get some funds raised. There's an organic effort in the community to do so, and there's a couple different websites and opportunities. You can buy some silver rounds and for him, and you can just make a donation, and you can go to Sean and I's latest video on my channel from Truth Tuesday, and there are links in the description to do that. So if you want to get in the fight for freedom and peer-to-peer transactions and support a American inventor and patent holder, you can do that.
Cool. Let's see here, Sean.
Why'd you go to me next? I wasn't next.
It's clockwise. I'm going clockwise. What are you thinking?
Oh, clockwise.
I'm playing cards here.
And hold on, I just want to see something real quick because I forgot to tell Lisa about this.
Okay, William.
All right.
Yeah, no, Lisa. But yeah, YouTube has not put up your our show for you. I got comments on.
You guys, you can probably do this after the show. There's less than 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'll look.
Yeah, check out me at least every Tuesday. I'm trying to get some good interviews on my channel. I got a video coming out about a scam project. I'll probably do it today or tomorrow. That's it.
Right on, William.
I'll be super fast. Lisa, thank you very much for having me on your show again this past Monday. That was fun. If you want to catch me, find me, you can find me on X, but the best place to find me is at Den.Social.
Right on. And me, legalfund.dragonchain.com, and watch Dracario World, probably some of the most exciting stuff that I've ever worked on with blockchain tech, and it has nothing to do with banks or money or Goldman Sachs or anything those guys care about. And let's see here. Next week, the theme is network states powered by blockchains as alternatives to the Westphalian nation state. This is a Greg one, I think, right? So yeah. I don't even know if I understand it. I might sit out. I might just watch. Maybe I'll just try to. I don't know. I'll be here anyway. And I think we're done early then. So thanks, guys. This is a good show. Hopefully everybody had fun. Hopefully I didn't annoy anyone. And a quick note, in case anyone was offended by the memes, we pull them down in batch from 4chan. I try to filter them out. I don't always get to read through them all. You know, it might be a leftist meme. There might be too many words. I might miss a word. You might get something that offends. So apologies if so, but they're all funny and hopefully whatever. Anyway, so make sure you share the episode. The more views it gets, the more lot all of us will get.
There we go.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Let's see here. What should I play on the way out? I will play. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. That was the second show in a row. Maybe you'll come back next week. You've been great.
I can't. I'm at PorcFest next week, but the week after, okay. I'm around.
Right on. Okay, so we'll just sign out with this and see you guys. Soon. All right. Have a great week next week, Aaron. All right.
All right. You too.
See you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
No mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party.